Good afternoon. Today I'll be presenting on the relationship between autism and the criminal justice system, and specifically how misinterpretation of behavior, lack of support, and procedural disadvantages contribute to disproportionate justice outcomes for autistic youth. This topic is important not only academically, but also socially and ethically. This topic affects how we understand fairness within our institutions. As autism diagnosis rates rise globally, more autistic individuals inevitably come into contact with institutions like schools, law enforcement, and courts. However, autism has historically been misunderstood by both the general public and criminal justice professionals. Behaviors that are neurologically typical for autistic people, such as eye contact, sensory overload, or difficulty with verbal communication, are often mistaken for noncompliance, defiance, or even aggression. These misunderstandings create situations where small issues escalate unnecessarily. Atypical communication may be treated as suspicious, and sensory distress may be viewed as resistance. As a result, autistic youth often face greater disciplinary actions, police involvement, and procedural disadvantages during legal processes. The goal of this presentation is to review both supporting and opposing research related to these outcomes, and to explore what the findings mean for policy, practice, and justice reform. This issue matters because autistic traits can easily be read through a criminal lens when professionals lack training. For example, a youth experiencing sensory overload may cover their ears, ignore questions, or shut down. Without understanding these behaviors, an officer or teacher may interpret them as disrespect or guilt. The consequences of misinterpretation can be significant. They can range from unnecessary use of force to entry into the school to prison pipeline. Understanding autism accurately can prevent escalation, improve safety, and support more equitable treatment across systems. Several studies strongly support the idea that autism alone does not increase criminal behavior. You and colleagues found that only about 3% of autistic young adults have been formally charged with a criminal offense. Importantly, when they controlled for things like socioeconomic status and co-occurring mental health conditions, individuals with autism were not overrepresented in the justice system. Similarly, Slaughter et al. Found that autistic youth actually committed fewer property crimes and had fewer school rule violations than their non-autistic peers. However, their behaviors were more likely to be misinterpreted, resulting in more disciplinary actions and police referrals. This suggests that the problem is not behavior, but interpretation. The National Institute of Justice, in a 2019 report, noted that autism-related behaviors, such as avoiding eye contact, communicating in atypical ways, or reacting strongly to sensory input, are often misunderstood as indicators of guilt or noncompliance. The NIJ emphasized that improving officer training could reduce unnecessary escalation. Similarly, a survey by the A.J. Drexel Autism Institute found that interactions with police were often distressing for autistic individuals. Participants reported that communication breakdowns and sensory challenges were more triggers for conflict, and again, co-occurring mental health conditions, not autism, were the main contributors to justice involvement. Further supporting this view, Simon Patel and Goldberg in 2025 found that autistic individuals actually engage in fewer property crimes compared to neurotypical peers, but still experience more negative encounters with the justice system. The research concluded that these disparities stem from inadequate institutional training and insufficient understanding of autism among justice professionals. Together, these studies show that negative outcomes are not caused by autism itself. However, they rather result from systematic failures. While much of the research supports the main thesis, Some findings complicate it. King et al. In 2021 found that autistic young adults were actually less likely to be involved in adult criminal justice system than their non-autistic peers. This suggests that autism does not automatically increase risk, and it challenges simplistic assumptions about behavior or outcomes. Davis et al. Found a similar trend. Autistic individuals had lower overall justice contact, but the types of offenses differed. This suggests that autism influences the nature of justice involvement rather than the rate of involvement. The findings highlight the need to distinguish between criminal intent and neurological behavior. Another important study by Stewart, Lee, and Melnison found that although arrests were relatively rare, about 20% of youth with autism had some form of police contact by the age of 21. Many of these encounters were linked to behaviors associated with distress or impulsivity, which law enforcement often misread as noncompliance. International research supports this pattern. In the United Kingdom, the Equality and Human Rights Commission found that defendants with autism often faced inaccessible court procedures and lacked proper accommodations. This can worsen outcomes or increase system involvement. It's important to look at different cases to further understand this viewpoint. The case of Darius McCollum is a striking example of how autistic traits can conflict with legal expectations. McCollum, whose intense special interest involved public transit systems, was repeatedly arrested for unauthorized operation of these transit vehicles, despite him having no criminal intent to harm anyone. This case raises questions about intent, responsibility, and the role of accommodations and understanding within the legal system. Taken together, the research shows that understanding autism in the justice system requires a shift from viewing behavior as a willful misconduct to recognizing neurological differences. For policymakers, this means expanding training for police, judges, and other justice professionals. Training must include communication strategies, de-escalation techniques, and awareness of sensory sensitivities. Schools are also very important. Many youth with autism first enter the justice system through school discipline policies. Early intervention, behavioral supports, and collaboration between educators and mental health professionals can prevent unnecessary criminalization. From a legal standpoint, standardized diversion programs and courtroom accommodations can greatly improve fairness. Sensory-friendly environments, clear language, and increased flexibility can reduce disadvantage during legal proceedings. Engaging with this research changed my own understanding of how autism is viewed in society and in the justice system as a whole. I initially assumed that behavioral issues played the largest role in justice involvement, but after analyzing the studies, it became clear that systematic factors such as lack of training, misinterpretation, and procedural barriers are far more influential. The diversity of research has also shown me that no single narrative can capture the complexity of autism. Studies that challenge the main thesis remind us that individuals vary significantly, and systems must be flexible enough to accommodate that diversity. Ultimately, this work reinforced my belief that justice requires empathy as much as it does legality. In conclusion, the connection between autism and the justice system is not driven by higher rates of criminal behavior. Instead, it is shaped by misunderstanding, lack of support, and procedural inequality. Evidence from multiple countries and research fields shows us that youth with autism often face disproportionate consequences because systems are not designed with neurodiversity in mind. Moving forward, reforms must focus on training, early intervention, and accessible justice procedures. By embracing neurodiversity-informed practices, institutions can move toward fairness, inclusion, and compassion. Thank you.